Right, so I guess it's come down to me being bored enough to do another tutorial, so a bit dry on ideas. Had a suggestion in the forums, I think. Not too sure if it was the forums, but anyway, basically the guy asked if I could do a tutorial on showing an image through a vector. And for those of you who don't know what a vector is, it's basically this eagle here. It's cut out slice. Before I go into the tutorial, I want to show you the PSD I'm going to be working with. And basically, the PSD is just a Illustrator thing imported into Photoshop with a bit of an inner shadow for those of you who are into Photoshop. Anyway, we're going to be using this PSD in After Effects, so that should be interesting. So you want to pop into After Effects, and I'm going to be showing you what we're going to be doing. That looked a bit better when I was doing it, but I guess that'll do. So basically it's just the vector with some motion blur and the text fading on. There's a bit more than that going on in the actual composition, so without further ado, let's make a new composition. Control N, 1280 by 720. Yeah, we are using CS5 for this, so bear with me. And yeah, we have our new composition. We want to put in our clip, and then we want to import our logo, which our logo has to be, well, it doesn't have to be, but should be a transparent layer, and it should, like I said, be a vector that you can easily work with. The best way to see if it'll work is just to experiment with whatever you have. Now down here we have basically a track matte, and we want to make it alpha matte. And we want to basically have confound under, or whatever your clip is, under the vector, and drop this down, alpha matte tutorial.psd, and that immediately puts our logo, well, it makes the logo the image. I'm just going to move confound forward, so right about there. Okay, and what we want to do now is we want to animate the scale of our eagle so that it comes in. So from frame 0, we want to put the scale up. Now if you hold shift on your keyboard, it does it in huge increments, which is really useful. So at about an insane scale of 7980, we want to put a keyframe. And that just means that it's invisible. So if I go back down this way, you'll see that it's visible there. But this is what we want. So we move on right about here, and we put it to 100 scale. Now because I want to put text under this logo, I want to move it up a bit. Like that. Now what it'll do is it'll come down slowly, then suddenly go quick. I prefer it this way, but if you don't like that, highlight both the keyframes, right click, keyframe assistant, exponential scale, and that'll make it smooth throughout. Well, not smooth, it'll make the endings hard, but basically it'll make it even. But I prefer the other way, so I'm just going to leave it. And now, to help with these rough edges, since basically we are exceeding the scale that usually this would be scaled up to, we want to put on motion blur and toggle switches modes, and then put on motion blur for our tutorial.psd. And basically what that does is it adds some blur once it's coming in, so it looks a bit softer. Now basically we want to take our tutorial.psd again and drop it on top, and if we actually press P on the, or actually an easier way to do this is just to Control D on that layer and then switch it on, so that we don't have to copy the position over. Now what we want to do is we want to fade it on, so press T, that brings up opacity, and T for this one, so both of them are on opacity. Stopwatch this, put this to 0, and keep in mind that's not the one that's alpha matted. Go forward 1, 2, 3, maybe 15 frames, a bit less, and put this to 100, and put this to 0. Now basically what happens is we fade in our solid logo, which is good. That's what we want to do. And now I'm just going to quickly create a nice little background, so layer new solid, and any color, doesn't matter. Effect, generate, ramp, and in the options, sure enough, we can make this a radial ramp and make this the bottom end color black, and the start color grayish. So we have this nice holy light. Yeah, let's call it that. And then we put that at the bottom of everything. And then what we want to do is we want to create our text. So let's get our text tool, write artificial animation, and let's scale it up because I don't like it being that small. And to make our text look a bit nicer, just go to Effect, Generate, Ramp again, leave it at linear, and bring these 2 points down, and then switch them around so that we have the dark at the bottom and it gets lighter. And then the final thing we should do to our text, or if you want to do it to our text, it's optional obviously, as everything is, go search for drop shadow and drag it onto our text and make the shadow color white. We want to basically make this in light shadow, which is easier in Photoshop, but can be done here. Put the distance to 1, and now if you play with that, sure enough we have this kind of bevel ingrown look, which concludes our tutorial. If we do RAM preview this, oops, yeah, I forgot about the text. We want to fade the text in as well. So roughly about here, put it to 0, go over here, put it to 100. And now, as I was saying, we should have something that looks like this. And that concludes that tutorial. There will be more tutorials coming, as obviously I just have an urge to do tutorials all of a sudden, and there'll be a giant flow of tutorials which will hopefully lead to something other than that. But yeah, till next time, hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, visit our forums or drop a comment, or do what you normally do, I guess, go about your life. But yeah, till next time.